are so glad that you are joining us today. Thank you so much. I am about to do an interview with Leslie Davis about her amazing book, You Can't Eat Love. Learning how to love yourself. How learning to love yourself can change your relationship with food. Now, I want to say before we start this book that it truly is not a weight loss book. Weight loss happens as a result of the work that God has done on the inside of you. So I have loved your style of writing. It's very informational. It's very jovial. Is your mic on? It's very informational. It's very jovial. And it has been, and then you use a lot of everyday information to really, everyday information to really weave the story. And so I have loved we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. I'm going to keep talking because you can still hear me. But I've loved this book because there has been some emotional healing that God has done. And as a result of the emotional healing that He has done, it has taken you on this journey. And as a result of this journey, you have written an amazing book with some very practical things in it, some instructions for what people can do. You're a good storyteller. You told the stories well. And you're very humorous, even in the painful, hard things that God was working in your life. You were very humorous in telling them, but you also dealt with them honestly. So welcome Leslie Davis to The Search for Me. You Can't Eat Love. We're going to be talking about her book, and we will be talking about ways that you can get her book throughout our time together. So glad you're here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to join you.
So I want to start off. I have several questions, and I even have page numbers. So
Oh.
This is how incredible this was. So the first question is, though, who did you write this book for?
Well, I had to really think after it was published and I was looking at it, when I had it in my hands, I said, who did you write this book for?
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation that I had with myself was, I wrote it for me.
Okay.
I wrote it for the me that I used to be.
Okay.
And I wrote it for the me that was searching for that love. And the book talks about the myself-sized hole in my heart. And I was writing it for that person that thought they were missing something.
Yes.
And as a friend of mine recently said, she published her book for the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, that's perfect, because I wrote the book for the me that I used to be before I went on the journey. But I really published it for the world, hoping, believing, knowing that there's another me out there, and that other me doesn't want or need to do the hard work.
Somebody has done it.
Right. So just because our cars go on wheels doesn't mean that we need to invent one every time we need to replace a wheel.
Yes.
So it's kind of that principle. I already invented the wheel. You just need to
take the material and run with it.
And go with it.
Yes. So I'm going to start with something that was very impactful for me in the book. And it was a statement you made that love is the memories. Tell me about that story. And tell our audience about that story.
Well, that goes back to, my mother died, gosh, it's been almost 37 years ago, and I kept trying to reclaim things, and I was holding on to items and food and different things, trying to hold on to her. And it was when I was eating this slice of chocolate pie the day after Mother's Day. I talk about this in the book. It's this beginning story. It just occurred to me, love is not in any of the stuff. There is no love in the stuff. The stuff is just stuff. It's as they say, you don't see any U-Hauls going to a cemetery.
Yes.
Because we can't take anything with us. But love is in the memory. Now something may trigger a memory, something may reinforce a memory, but the love is right there in the memory, because in that memory you can replay in your mind how you felt, what was going on, the sounds you heard, how other people acted. And that was extremely eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, well then, it was like I could take a really deep breath and let it all out.
And release her.
And release her.
Yes.
Because she was always there, she would always be there with the memories.
Yeah. So I loved the story you shared about that. And that is the whole premise of the book, loving yourself. And as a result of loving yourself, then you begin to look at yourself through different lenses. And through those different lenses, you're able to say, okay, if I love myself, then why am I carrying all this weight that I'm carrying? So the work actually began on the inside. Right. God started the work on the inside, and as a result of that, then the work is now manifested on the outside. So how, one of the other stories I loved in the book is that you shared about going to the store, picking up a package of cookies. And by the time you got home, all the cookies were gone. Talk to me about that. Because there are probably people listening who may have done this, and they're trying to figure out what in the world happened.
Well, and it's not that I didn't know what I was doing, it's that I was pretending that I wasn't doing what I was doing. So you go to the store, and you go through the bakery, because you know they've got the bakery section at the front of the store, right?
Yes, they do.
And they always put the good stuff right there at the front, because they're wanting you to pick up the good stuff, all right? So they always have these cookies, and they're the soft sugar cookies with the really soft, brightly colored icing, and they're so kind, because you know, they color the icing to match the current holiday, which I think is so wonderful of them, because then you're thinking, well, I can pick these up, and you know, it'd be so nice to have these holiday cookies.
Yeah.
I mean, they just finished off with the pink and the red ones for Valentine's, and they're about to move to the green and the yellow for St. Patrick's Day and Easter. And so I would think, well, you know, my family likes cookies, so I'll take these cookies home. They're good. And they come in a really nice plastic container, and they're, you know, individually standing up, and it's a really nice thing. And so I go through the store, finish all my grocery shopping, get out to the car, and of course, I mean, I don't know about you, but I tended, that's past tense, tended to go to the store around 10:30, 11 o'clock, okay? Well, what are you around 10:30, 11 o'clock? You're a little hungry. And after you finish this hour-long trek through the grocery store of picking up all this food, you know, you're really kind of hungry. And you have to get home and unload everything. So I would say I just need one cookie. And what I realized was happening is this child inside of me was saying, you just did all this stuff. You just bought all these groceries. You just spent all this money. And I don't know about you, but grocery shopping to me is the most thankless process in the whole country. You know, you hand somebody all this money, you take all this stuff home, and where does most of it end up? You cannot see the result of it, except outwardly. But anyway, this child inside of me would, you know, start in on this conversation. I'm hungry. You ever been around a 4-year-old kid that's hungry? And so I would just start mindlessly eating the cookies, and as I realized I've eaten, you know, about a third of them or less sometimes, I would be very embarrassed that I wasn't taking home the whole box of cookies. So I would quickly finish the whole thing off before I got home.
So you wouldn't have to take any in the
So I wouldn't have to take any in the
And
house.
nobody would know.
Nobody would know.
Wow.
Nobody would know. So that cycles back around to, I realized how many lies I was telling myself. How many times I was lying to myself, and how many times those lies were hurting me.
Yeah, wow. Well, and so that's a great springboard here, because so many times, whether it is about our health or whether it is about anything else in our lives, we tell ourselves lies because we think that's the only way we can get through the situations we're facing. So we pretend, we make up stories, we act like everything is wonderful in our world because we don't really want to address what's going on in our hearts. And so you told us, so what are some of the lies you told yourself?
Well, I've consumed diet drinks since I was in high school. Okay, so one of the lies that I told myself was drinking a diet drink canceled out the calories of anything else that I ate.
Okay, all right. How did you figure that?
Well, you know, the thing about lies is we make them up. You know, we make up stories, and that's what a lot of lies are. They're stories that we make up. So I made up my own reality. Now, you've often heard, I'm sure you have, that people will say, you know, a broken cookie, the calories fall out of it.
I guess I missed those statements, but go on.
If you eat food off of somebody else's plate, it has no calories.
Oh my! Is that why couples eat off each other's plates?
Because it has no calories, you know. And when you pick up your children's plates, if they have leftovers on them and you clean their plate before putting it in the dishwasher, no calories.
You wrote about that in the book.
Yeah, but those are the stories that we tell ourselves. Yeah, and that just is a reflection of where else are we telling ourselves stories.
And those stories keep us on this cycle of believing these lies. And so whether it is emotionally, we begin to hurt ourselves, or physically, by putting on the weight, the stories keep going, and we keep on this cycle. And it's a never-ending cycle until somebody comes and rescues you. And this is what is happening with your book. The Lord rescued you. You found the answer. You began to deal with the emotional wounds that you had. And as a result of dealing with those emotional wounds, then it was just natural.
Right.
Because literally you had put on the weight because there was this hole in your heart that you was trying to fill, but you were filling it with the wrong thing. You were needing love, but you were filling it with things. Some people with shopping.
Some people with drinking.
And some people with drinking. Some people with drugging. And your choice of drug was food. Yes.
Food was my drug of choice.
Yes.
But, you know, part of that is also driven by how many commercials do you see where the child is crying. My least favorite commercial. The child is crying and the parent's sitting outside the bathroom door and pushes a Kit Kat bar under the door to make the child feel better. How many times do we see that? Food is going to make you feel better. But the other thing that I discovered is telling myself these lies, and you can laugh about the lies, you know, cookies, broken cookies, no calories and all that. But then you start realizing where else are you lying in your life, and then you start being afraid you're going to be found out.
Oh wow.
And how do we live when we're terrified of being found out?
Yeah. We try to hide, and we do even more damage to ourselves trying to keep the secrets.
Yes, and so then it starts spilling over into other pieces and parts of our lives.
So I want to say it again. So when I read this book, I read a portion of your first book, but you felt the Lord led you to release this one first. And once I read it, then I agreed, because the inner healing that took place in this book, when your next book is released, it will explain the journey to that point of where you are. But when I read the book, you know, you pick up a book and it says you can't eat love, and I just love the designer that did the cover. They did an amazing cover with this. And so I began to read the book, and I thought, okay, well, this book is not really about dieting as much as it is about a journey of self-discovery and of healing the whole man. And so what I did as I read, there were certain things that were highlighted to me out of the book. So I'm going to give you some page numbers. Page 37.
Okay.
And so you said on the journey together, we're going to learn a lot about ourselves and how changing our thoughts changes our relationship with food. Talk to me about how you changed your thoughts and how it affected what you began to eat.
Well, I realized that I always had the love that I was seeking. It just wasn't coming from the source that I thought it was coming from, that I thought it should be coming from.
Okay.
But it was when I started really strengthening my relationship with God that I realized that He always loved me.
Yes.
And He gave me a purpose. He gave me a path to walk on. So once I stopped seeking love outside of myself and started seeking love from God and affirmation from God, then it calmed down that craving, that desire.
That's a good word.
And it also released me from wanting to hurt myself. Because so many times hurting ourselves feels less painful than the hurt we feel.
Yeah.
So in changing my relationship really within myself, I no longer needed food to fill the hole. But again, it goes back to the lies that I was telling myself. And it goes back to the stories that are perpetuated in the media. You know, food is going to make you feel better.
Yes.
No, food is not going to make you feel better. There's
It's a temporary
nothing about
fix.
it that's going to make you feel better. Food, I now see food as fuel.
Yes, which is what it is.
Now that doesn't mean, don't get me wrong, that does not mean that I don't have an occasion where I may eat 6 cookies at a time, not the ones from the store.
Healthier ones?
Cookies that I will make, because my family eats cookies. But there are times I will eat 6 cookies. There are times when I'll eat 2 bags of chips. But I've learned to forgive myself and to move on. So, by changing my thoughts and knowing that I am worthy of love, God is giving me the love that I need, and also changing the people that I surround myself with.
Yeah. So, I love that. Let's stay on this point for just a few minutes, because I think there's probably a lot of people who are listening who may be here in this place. Maybe we're looking for the spouse, we're looking for the children, we're looking for the grandchildren, we're looking for the friends, we're looking for various people in our lives to love us. And they don't love us the way we feel like we need to be loved. Or they don't say the words, nor do they affirm the words. And so we're looking in all the wrong places, basically. And the lover of our souls, He already loves us. And if we could tap into that love first, then the rest of it would become simple. And so there are a lot of people that are probably listening that you're looking for those words, you're looking for that affirmation, but you don't really get it at the time that you think that you're supposed to have it. And so once you begin to understand that you are truly loved in a way that no human being can love you, then it released you to begin to accept and to love yourself.
Right.
Is that what happened?
That's right. Because so many, as you said, so many times we're looking for the love to come from somebody else, and they're not going to give it to us in the way that we want. And so we get more and more frustrated. Don't you love me? How come you don't tell me you love me? If I love this one. If you loved me, you would do X, Y, Z. Okay, let me just, parenthetical statement. Anyone who says to you, if you love me, you will do X, Y, Z, they do not love you. They don't love you.
Because they make it conditional.
Right, so love is unconditional.
Yes.
And once I quit putting conditions or demands on other people, then I was free to start accepting the love from the one who created me, and to understand how much He did love me.
Yes.
And then I started seeking the love inside myself, which allowed me to calm down and not be constantly looking for that affirmation somewhere else.
So you weren't as needy.
I was not as needy.
Yes.
And if you think about those times when you're surrounded by needy people,
Oh yes, they drain you.
they do. They absolutely drain you.
Yeah. Because there's no self-sufficiency. They don't think they can sustain themselves or even their relationship. I wanna make this caveat. Now, this book is not about spiritual things.
No.
But because of who you are as you read the book, you can pick up. So this is not a religious book for those who are watching and thinking, oh, this is about religion. But because of who she is and because of her relationship with Christ, you can see how He has directed your steps to address things that are heart issues for people who need their hearts healed and changed. And so let's go to page 39. I love this one. Talk about the sabotagers in your lives.
Oh my goodness.
That was a good one for me. What are some of the things that sabotages us?
Well, sometimes we sabotage ourselves.
Yes.
For example, we linger too long in the bakery department. We allow our eyes to, drift over to the candy bars that are sitting there. We go down an aisle that we really don't have any business going down, or we go to the movies and we order something, or we go to the drive-thru and we order something we really don't want. We can sabotage ourselves. But the sabotagers are the people that are around us when we announce, and that's one of the things that I talk about. Don't announce to anyone that you've gone on a weight loss journey.
Yeah, you talked about that.
Don't tell a single soul.
Yes.
Because they will show up in droves to make certain that you are not successful. They are the ones who will bring, well, a little bit of this cake won't hurt you.
You talked about that.
A little bit of that won't hurt you. Well, now how come you're having that? They start the shaming stuff.
Yeah.
So if you just stop and breathe for just a moment, pretend you're at your next family gathering. Look at all the people who are there at that gathering and think of the things that they say. And realize how often they try to get you to have something that you don't want. For example, the other night, I'm dining with my husband, and he was eating something, I don't remember what it was, something that was very spicy, and I do not do spicy, don't do spicy. And he says, try it. I said, no, I don't care for it, I don't like spicy, and I continued on eating. And try it, I don't like it. Well, try it, you might like it. No. But even though I have tried to, put boundaries up, and that's what sabotagers are about. We've got to put boundaries up to keep them from coming inside. But they are around us, and it's important that we identify them. For example, if you walk down the street and you know the house 3 doors down has a crazy dog that's going to charge the fence every time you walk past, what do? You take steps, you do something so that you either cross the street or you're ready for that dog charging the fence. Well, that's what the sabotagers are. We need to be ready for them so that we are prepared and able to stop them from allowing us to continue our journey.
So what about the people that, those people that love sweets? I'm not one of those people, but they bake something and they just want you to taste it. And then they get offended if you don't taste it. I see this stuff all the time. Talk to me about that. How do you deal with that? Because you're getting offended, and then what people do, they will submit to the pressure. And then they will take and eat it even though they know this is not good for me, or if I'm working on myself and I should not be partaking in this. How do you deal with that? Because there's some people that have a guilt complex, and they allow people to guilt them into doing things that they don't really want to do. Talk about that.
Well, that's just like the dog down the street. Okay, you know that Aunt so-and-so is going to be fixing these fabulous, she thinks, fabulous fruitcake cookies, okay? And you know the minute you cross the threshold that Aunt so-and-so is going to be shoving them in your face, okay? You know that. So because you've read the book, you know that you need to practice while you're driving down the street and pulling into the driveway. You need to be practicing what you're going to say and what you're going to do. So you're going to say to yourself, I know that Aunt so-and-so is going to shove these not so great fruitcake cookies into my face as soon as I walk in the door. All right, I know that she is not going to take no. So what I am going to do is graciously accept it and then go find somebody else to talk to. And on my way back from finding somebody else to talk to, my napkin is going to end up in the trash with that fabulous fruitcake cookie wrapped up in it. And then I will simply say to Aunt so-and-so, thank you so much, that cookie was really great. So while I don't advocate lying to yourself, you are not lying to yourself, what you are doing is you are taking care of yourself and you're protecting your boundaries. So when you run into those people who will not take no for an answer, you know who they are, identify them, and practice so that you come up with a strategy to deal with them. You can also, if they put something on your plate, you can push it around and all that and go talk to somebody. But the other thing that I want you to do is when you leave Aunt So-and-so's, and because the cookie ended up in the trash with the wadded up napkin and not in your mouth, I want you to celebrate the whole way home.
Yes, you talk about that a lot in the book. That every little victory, even if you think it's minute, to take a moment to celebrate yourself, to praise yourself, because it's something that you'll accomplish.
That's
I
right.
read that throughout the book. Almost every chapter, you will pause to tell the person who's reading and who's gained a victory to celebrate what they have accomplished.
Mhm.
I want to take us to page 49, and you talk about this traffic jam. That was very interesting. You keep saying to the people, don't park the car, don't get out, and don't walk home. Explain that. You're very, you and another person that I know, you guys are very good. You find these very interesting everyday examples, and you weave them well. And so you've done that throughout this book. They're just practical everyday examples that you have used to weave through what you're trying to deliver. Talk to me about this traffic jam.
Well, so many times we make excuses for why we can't do something. Okay, so it was my birthday, and of course we celebrate birthdays for a whole week in my family. It was so-and-so's birthday next week, so of course we do, birthdays for a whole week. We find excuses to keep us from reaching our destination. And somebody was making this comment to me, and I looked at them, and I said, what do you do in a traffic jam? They said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, tell me, what is it that you do when you're in a traffic jam? And they said, well, I just sit there. I said, okay, so this is what you have right now. You have a traffic jam in your life. Do you park your car? No, I don't park my car. I stay where I am. I said, okay, so why are you parking your car now? Why are you getting out of your car? Do you get out of your car if you're stuck in a traffic jam? No, you don't. You stay in the car. What might you do? Change the radio, call a friend, say a few prayers, listen to an audiobook, something. You do everything possible except park your car, get out of it, and you definitely do not walk home, especially in Houston in the summertime.
Yeah.
So a lot of people experience traffic jams. So to me, the more visual that we can be,
Yes.
the more alive something becomes.
Yes, and you delivered it very clearly on that.
So my point is, it doesn't make any difference what kind of life you live. We're all going to run into traffic jams. And they don't have to keep us from reaching our destination. They may slow us down. It may take us a little bit longer. But it's critical, it's important, just like on the freeway, you don't park your car, you don't get out, and you don't walk home.
And so essentially you're saying, so if you're taking a great break and you're doing well with your eating habits, and all of a sudden something happened and you get back to a package of cookie, don't just say, okay, well, I've messed up.
Right.
And don't stay there. Okay,
Right.
acknowledge that you messed up, forgive yourself, get up, and start again.
Yep.
So don't be stuck in the situation that you're in currently, because that situation is not permanent.
That's right. That situation is just one traffic jam, and you don't stay in a traffic jam forever.
Yes, yes.
But it's really important that you recognize it's a traffic jam. It's okay.
On page 47, you really talked about acceptance and forgiveness. So tell us how that works. How did it work for you personally? And then we'll broaden it to talk about how it works for people who are listening.
Well, for me personally, it was really an aha moment. I had gone to a party and I had intended, there's that word intended, I had intended just to eat a little bit of something. And there were some foods there that I don't normally see. And I was enjoying the company, and so I lost track of my intention. and I ended up eating a whole lot more than I had intended to do. And I started getting angry with myself and saying, you know, what the heck were you doing? You had a plan. What the heck was going on? Why didn't you stick to your plan? And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Why are you shaming yourself? You've worked really, really hard. Yes, you did have an intention. Yes, you did have a plan. Plans don't always work. They don't always work, and that is okay. And I said, you know, we're always asking God and other people to forgive us when we make a mistake or when we do something that hurts their feelings or is harmful. I said, I need to forgive myself for the fact that I did not follow my intention. I did not follow my plan. I need to say, it's okay. I forgive you for not following your plan. It's all right. And move on.
And you know, we can really take that and broaden it and think about how many times we have made decisions with our lives that are not the best of decisions. And then the enemy comes in and he says, oh, look at that, you missed it again, you messed up again, you said you were not going to watch that thing, you watched it, you were not going to do this relationship, you did it. And we get on this cycle where we can keep going and going and we spiral out of control all the way until we hit rock bottom. We forgive people more quickly than we forgive ourselves. Mm-hmm. And truly, if we don't forgive ourselves, then that is why we're not able to break the behavior and break the pattern. It is so amazing that it's easy for me to say, I forgive you for the offenses you have done towards me, but when it comes to me saying, you know what, that was a very bad decision you made, but grace is extended in the decision, forgive yourself and move on. We don't do that often. No. And it's the same way you're saying, if you eat something that you had planned not to eat, it is not a way out. What I read in the book, and I think you really clarified it, is that, okay, I'm going to forgive myself because I did not do my plan this time, but you don't make that a habit of continually breaking the plan that you have put in place.
Exactly. And one of the things that I started doing was I envisioned myself as two people. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, we have a very best friend in the whole wide world. And so I just envisioned myself as two people, and when I would fall down and not follow the plan, one side of me, you know, would forgive the other side of me, and extend, as you said, extend grace, because it's not that we want to continue down that path. Yeah. And just because we don't do what we intended doesn't mean that we should continue down that path. Let's forgive ourselves, push it aside, and move forward.
But I think that's at that point when the enemy derails.
Oh, yes.
Many people. Because if you miss one step, you think, well, what's the point of even doing anything else? And that's the lie that he tells all of us. So we derail ourselves. We don't stop and say, you know what? This is just one misstep. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to dust myself off. And I'm going to continue making the right decisions, whether it is about food or about choices in relationship, whatever it is. And this is why this book is so good, because somebody can read this book. When I was reading this book, I was not reading this book from the perspective of food, because that's not my problem. Right. And I'm pretty disciplined. So I did not read the book from that perspective. I read the book and I began to examine now, what are some things in my life that this is applicable to, that I need to put boundaries in, that I need to think about a traffic jam. What stops me when I'm trying to do something? What are my roadblocks? What am I saying to myself when something that I'm working on is not manifesting the way that I want it to manifest? And so how am I stopped in that process? So that's what I'm saying. This book, even though it's talking about what has happened on the outside of you, it really is all about what is taking place on the inside to get you to the place where you are on the outside. I'm going to take you to page 59. And you were talking here about guarding your feelings and guarding your emotions. And the subtitle is Lies and More Lies. And that's what I was saying about the book. You're very raw, you're very transparent with your struggles and with your victories. And so it made for very good reading. You were talking about searching the refrigerator and the pantry looking for something, and eating was how I killed the pain of honest feeling because I was afraid of feeling.
Mhm.
Talk about that. Why were you afraid of feeling?
Well, in growing up in my family, anytime I would say, I feel sad or I feel whatever, you shouldn't feel was the response.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up thinking that I shouldn't feel fill in the blank. And as a result, I was afraid of feeling because I was told by people who should know that I shouldn't feel whatever.
So basically, you're told by your parents growing up.
Well, parents and a lot of other adults,
Okay.
Think how many times we say that to another person.
Mm-hmm.
They may express a grief or anger or something with you, and your response is, well, you shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Well, no. If that's how I feel, that's how I feel. And so I had to learn, as I said, I had to learn the names of the feelings that I felt. It wasn't that I did not know the names of feelings, because I did. I just didn't know how to label the ones that I felt. So when I was searching the pantry, it was like, okay, I'm looking for something because I don't want to feel this thing, whatever it is. I got really good at angry. I was really, really good at angry. Not so much anymore.
Okay. So let's look at the time. Let's go to page 71. Page 71, you really talked about memories and the impact of memories. Why are those? So he says, verse 71 says, learning to live with the memories and understanding how certain smells can take me and myself back has been a lot of work on my journey. I cannot tell you how many times me and myself wanted to park my car, get out, and walk home because they did not think it was worth it. And so I know you're talking about how many times you just wanted to turn back and say, you know what, what's the point of doing this diet? What's the point of trying to fix myself? Let me just continue to live the life I was living. And so talk about what that memory, why that was such a point for you.
Well, sometimes memories are the things that we wish for. If they are not as we had hoped they would be, they're very, very painful. And so sometimes the memories would come up and I couldn't deal with the pain. And I would just like, what is the point? Just throw in the towel, forget it, just go back to the way it was, where it didn't matter, I didn't care, I didn't feel, which is lying to myself because I was feeling. But so many times the hard work is hard work.
Yes.
And I didn't want to do the hard work.
Yes.
But that's where I stepped in. And I would say, it's okay. I would calm me and myself down and say, it's okay. You can do this. Stay in the car. Don't park it. Don't walk home. And I believe it's at those times we need to take a look behind us to see how far we've come.
Yeah. I call those the markers in our lives. Look at where I was. Look at where I am now. And celebrate those things. As I said, you talk about that all throughout the book. I want to talk about, there's so many things. You talk about exercising and how you hated walking and how you hated sweating and how you got the process going and where you are today as a result of that. And you talked about going to the gym and making that decision to go to the gym, and then you called a trainer and that didn't work out, and the Lord set up the right trainer, and that person, you actually share some nuggets at the end of each chapter, some of the wise counsel that she's given you all throughout your journey. You talk about life hacks, and so that's something, at the end of every chapter you talk about that. We don't have time to go through all of that right now, but what I do want to talk about though, so you talk about exercising on page 93, on page 114 you talk about celebrating victories, we touched on that earlier. I want you to share about page 126 because this was very impactful for me. And it was where you wrote a card to yourself. Talk to me about that. Because I believe that is going to be something that the audience can hold on to that is going to be transforming and life altering for them. Tell me about this card, why you wrote it to yourself, and what you're still doing with it today.
Well, as I say in the book, I was shopping for Valentine's Day cards to send to my kids because, that's what you do. And I picked up a card and I thought, well, this is a really nice card. I would really like it if somebody had sent this card to me. And I was like, well, why can't I send it to myself? And so I picked it up and I felt kind of silly doing it. And I got home and I unpacked the groceries and I get to the card. I was like, really? Are you really going to send this card to yourself? And I said, yes. So I sat down and I started in the top left-hand corner of the card, opened it up, top left-hand, started writing. Writing as if I was writing to my very best friend in the whole wide world.
Which you were.
Which I was. I was writing to my very best friend in the whole wide world, which is myself. And I told myself how wonderful I was and how proud I was, and picked out different little things and just commented, just as you would to your very best friend in the whole wide world if you were writing a letter that you're going to put a stamp on and sending it. And I finished writing it, and I have to tell you, I was crying when I finished writing it. I sealed it up and I put it to the side where I could find it easily, and through the year, I would open it up and I'd read it, and it was so nice. I mean, it just felt so good. It was like getting a big warm hug from somebody at a time when I needed it. So I've continued to do that, and on occasion, if I'm feeling a little low or whatever, and I'm passing through the card section, I'll grab a card. I'll go home. I'll write it out to my very best friend in the whole wide world. And then I put it where I can pick them up. Now I've got probably 10 to 20 cards, and I'll just pick them up, and it's just a nice warm hug. But I believe that it's so important that we do take a moment to write a note to our very best friend in the whole wide world.
And and that is affirmation. And sometimes we're looking for people to affirm us, but just the thought of you picking up that card, that did not just come to you because Leslie thought of that. It was something that was given to you that in the seasons when you're feeling down or discouraged and there's no one to say, wonderful job, oh, Leslie, you look amazing, oh, Leslie, you wrote a book, oh, how amazing is that? That you can go back to that card and be reminded, wow, look at what I've accomplished. But I think we have a hard time as people, and I also speak to this personally, we have a hard time as people celebrating our victories, celebrating the things that we have accomplished, because somewhere in our minds we're told, that's pride, that's ego, you should be talking about your accomplishments. But when you're talking about your accomplishments, and there's not about what I have done in my own right and in my own strength and all of this stuff. When you understand who the driver is behind those accomplishments, it is easy to say, you know what, wow, I really accomplished that. It was a lot of work, it was hard, it was painful, but I was able, there is nothing wrong with patting ourselves on the back, encouraging ourselves. We're not running around asking people to do that. And so I believe that just doing that builds our self-confidence. And so when I read that part about the card, I had not heard that before, and I thought, now, so many people through various struggles, and in the seasons that we're in right now, and in the seasons we're going to face in the future, they need a way to affirm themselves. They need a way to remind themselves that even though at times I may make bad choices, I am still worthy. And so we don't do that often enough. And so I thought that was a very powerful point that you put in the book. The last point I want you to explain is when you were in the gym and you carried all this weight and your knees and your body was just really struggling with it, and you carried the bags of food and the revelation that came as a result of that. Would you explain that to us?
When we lose weight, when we shed weight, we can see the physical transformation, but we don't really have a true understanding of what we've been demanding our bodies to do, or how much we were demanding that our bodies carry. And so when Jackie had me carry all that weight, it was 97 pounds total, and I had to carry it across the gym, which was a very long way, and then all the way back. It brought home to me what I had been demanding my 2 feet to carry and my knees to carry. Because truthfully, there's not much weight in your body from your knees to your feet. You know, the weight is usually above, and I was demanding that my body carry that on a regular basis. Every single second of every single day. And it just opened my eyes to, holy cow, this is a lot. Because think about this. If you were to pick up a 50-pound sack of dog food, think about how much that weighs. Or even a 20-pound sack of dog food. Think of how much that weighs. You're asking your body to carry that. So when you get rid of all of that, think how much stronger your body is, because it has been carrying that. But now it can do so much more.
I thought that was such to me, that visual will cause you never to go back.
Oh, no.
To have to carry the pounds that you had shed back and forth to one end of the gym and then to the other end of the gym is a visual that you will always keep before you. And then we wonder why our bodies break down. We wonder why we are not healthy. We wonder why we have all the disease. You go to the doctor and it's like, you know, people go to the doctor and they're dreading. The doctor does all this blood work and all this stuff. We're dreading to get the report. I went to the doctor 6 months ago, and this was a new doctor. I've been going to my other doctor for 30 years, and then this new insurance was not affording me that opportunity. And so this new doctor came into the room, and she said, wow. I just smiled. She said, whatever you are doing, keep doing it. All of your results are amazing. And I smiled, and I said, I work hard at it. I watch what I eat, I exercise, I rest. And she was like, what? She said, and she had done a tremendous amount of blood work. She had checked everything in my body. And she said, whatever you are doing, keep doing it. And so that was a moment of celebration, because I can sit down and I don't care what you're eating. If I decide I'm not eating meat today, I'm not eating meat today. If I'm not eating bread, I'm not eating bread. If I'm not eating sweet, but that's me though. I'm disciplined. This has been my whole lifestyle. And that's the reason why I've been able to sit down and write 16 books. Because it takes many hours to sit and write those books. The same reason we're able to do what we do around the world, because I have lived a very disciplined lifestyle. But not everybody is in that place of discipline. So let's close out on this note. If people are not that disciplined, and if they cannot leave the sugar cookie alone, if they cannot leave the next piece of bread alone, if they can't, how do we encourage them to realize how valuable they are?
Well,
and to let that be, so that they can accomplish all that God has sent them, get to their destination essentially. What can we talk to?
To me, I think that we have to, I would encourage, if you decide that you're going to try and make some changes in your life, I would encourage that you do 2 things. 1, make a decision what it is you're going to change, write it down. 2, start making little tiny changes. So if you decide that you're going to be someone who exercises, you start saying to yourself, I am someone who exercises. And then you go take a 2-minute walk. You celebrate at the end of that 2-minute walk because you are a person who exercises.
That's how you started.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You do little things, and then you celebrate after you do those little things. But I discovered that for me, it worked out best if I didn't tell the world what I was doing, because I believe you set yourself up to fail the minute you start telling the world, because then the world starts watching back. And the world does not want you to succeed. They want to be, I told you so. So you make a decision, the little thing you're going to change. You tell yourself, I am someone who does whatever it is, and then you celebrate when you do it.
And again, we go back throughout the book, you talk about the celebration piece. And I think that that is so good because we need to affirm ourselves so we can get to the next thing that we're working to pursue. My last question to you is, what do you want to result from someone reading this book?
Well, the biggest result that I want is I want them to understand that they are enough. They have every single solitary thing that they need. They do not need to be searching outside of themselves for something to affirm themselves. They are enough. And as I say at the end, if you're struggling with that piece, just reach out to me and I will help you see that you are enough. Because sometimes when we go on a journey, or when we begin doing something new, we just need someone to be right there. Think about a bike and training wheels. When children are learning how to ride a bike, they've got training wheels. You don't send them off on their own saying, figure it out. So if you need training wheels, just reach out. I will be your training wheels.
And
But just know that you're enough.
And all throughout the book, you have that information. They can reach out to you through emails. They can reach out, go into your site. You can't eat love, www.com. You can't eat love.com. So you had that all throughout the book. And what you did in the book is at the end of every chapter, you just added what was learned from each chapter. So by the time you get to the book, there are pages of things that were gleaned all throughout the book. I'm gonna put a plug in for this book, and then I'm gonna have you to tell them, I should say, where they can purchase the book. So I work so much, I'm studying so much, I'm writing so much, that it is very difficult for me to sit down and have enough time to finish a book. So literally, if somebody gives me a book, a friend gave me a book and I said I finished her book. What I typically tend to do is, if I know that I'm gonna have like maybe a couple of weeks or a month, when I don't have anything that I'm studying for or working on, that I can literally sit down and read. I think this is the first book that I've finished in a year, really. And I was very purposeful in reading your book for a couple of reasons. Number one, you've been such a blessing to me. Even in this last book that I wrote, you were learning some things as you were writing yours and publishing yours, and you did not hesitate at all to share those nuggets with me that I was able to pass on to Linda, that we have been able to use to help to push my book, You Can Trust Him, out there. So because of that, it was important to me that no matter I was in the middle of teaching and messages and things like that, I made it a point, and so I took a whole Saturday and just did nothing and just read your book, and was just very impacted that it was not about just weight loss. It was about the work that needed to be done inside in order to gain the result that you were after. And we see the results. You've had this result now for several years because the work was not just the physical person.
Right.
It was the person who needed healing on the inside of that body. So I'm going to encourage you who are listening, pick up a copy of her book. You can get it at Amazon. And I'm going to have you to share where else they can pick up a copy of your book. And then I want to close out with
Well, you can get the book, as Joan said, at Amazon, Amazon.com, or you can get it from through Barnes & Noble online. It's not in the brick and mortar Barnes & Nobles. But if you are listening today and you get a copy of the book, if you will drop a copy of your receipt into either the message or send a direct message to me, I will send you the PDF of the workbook for free. There's the workbook right there. So if you get either the Kindle version or the paperback version of the book, not the free e-reader, but the actual Kindle version or the paperback version of the book, and you drop your email to me, I will send you the PDF of the workbook for free. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at Leslie@youcan'teatlove.com, and there's no apostrophe in the can't. or go to the website, youcan'teatlove.com, or the Facebook page, youcan'teatlove.com. And I would love to hear from you.
And then I love the journal. I love the title of the journal. I think I love that even more than the title of the book. And the journal is So I Said to Myself. And so that's another companion that you have. And throughout your book, you tell them to journal, to write their thoughts, to write their struggles, to write their victories, so they have a record of where they can get, go back and remind themselves of their victories that they've had. I really appreciate you coming and allowing me to talk to you about this book. Really, truly was very, very impactful. Some things that I needed to work on in my thinking. And so I have quite a few little notes on this book here. And guys, I'm so glad that you have taken the time to join us. I pray that you didn't just hear about taking care of the physical man, but that you really heard about taking care of the emotional and the spiritual person, because once you've done that, then the rest of the stuff will fall into place. You still have to do the work to get the physical man in order. But when you take care of the inside, when you take care of your heart, when you take care of your emotions, then you're able to deal with the rest of the things that you need to deal with. I just want to say a prayer over you, and I just pray, Father, for everyone who will take the time to listen today, that the truths that they heard and the transparency in which Leslie shared her struggles, that they will become just as honest with themselves, so that you can begin, God, to do the work in their hearts that you want to do, because you have a future that is filled with hope and filled with promises for their lives. Thank you so much, Lord, for your goodness to all of us. This I pray in Jesus' name. The title of the book is You Can't Eat Love. That's the workbook. And the journal is So I Said to Myself. Pick up a copy of it. God bless you. And thank you so much for joining us.